Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to meet as friends and business associates for this webinar. We're grateful for those who are participate with us. We're so grateful for Tina and Abby and the work that they've done to prepare. We're grateful for the many blessings that we enjoy, especially our families, and for the protection that we have in our respective countries. We invite the Holy Spirit to be with us at this time, that we will say the things that we should say, that we will be calm when we say them. Especially bless those who attend, that they will learn something today and that it will be beneficial for all. We're so grateful for thy Son, our Savior, and his redeeming mission and his atonement. And we say these things in his holy name, even Jesus the Christ. Amen.
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 All right, we are going to get started. Welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us. Before I introduce myself, a couple of housekeeping items. You will get copies of today's presentation. It's in PowerPoint format. You will also get a web recording. So no need to take copious notes. You're welcome to jot a few things down, but please know you'll get copies of both the recording and the PowerPoint. And if you have any questions during today's webinar, please put them in the chat. I will be off screen and checking those questions, and then I will insert them as they apply to the content. My name is Joe Metro. Yes, that is a real name. I am a consultant with CRO Leader. I'm also a CRO Leader trained sales development representative for an MSP in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. Abby is our resident marketing specialist. She's also a LinkedIn subject matter expert. She is a genius. I will also introduce Tina, who is our client success manager. She is the glue that holds everything CRO Leader together. Next up is our leader and sales mentor, my good friend, Vernon Harrison. Vernon, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Thank you, Joe, for kicking it off. And thank you again, everyone, for joining. As Joe stated, I'm Vernon Harrison. I'm the CRO Leader, CEO, and Principal Consultant here. I want to share a couple of things on my resume, which hopefully you'll find useful. And they are the fact that I have owned and built a couple of MSPs myself and sold them. I've also spent a large percentage of my career in channel management, in sales, and in sales leadership. I'd also like to point out that I am the author of the book, The MSP Owner's Manual, a complete guide to growing your business. With that, I would like to introduce Jim Ulrich, our guest speaker today, and Jim will be speaking to you towards the end of my presentation. And Jim, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Jim Ulrich. I work for Fluency Security. I've spent about 20 years in this industry, helping companies build sales and deliver pipeline and grow strategic alliances.
Thanks, Jim. Let's get started.
Yeah.
All right. So what is a revenue roadmap? We refer to it as, and by the way, I hope you got some sneakers on. I'm going to go kind of quick. Like Joe said, if you have a question, put it in chat. He's right off to my side here. He will interrupt me unless he knows I'm going to get to your question. I use a lot of acronyms and I apologize. So your path from prospect to client. The point here is this. In all of the engagements that I've been involved with in the last 30 years, I see a lot of gaps in folks' and companies' process. And those gaps sometimes are not very wide, but they are exactly what stops a deal or an opportunity from progressing naturally. So what we're going to cover here today is all of the aspects of what we believe you need to do from prospect to purchase order. Okay. Again, from prospect to purchase order. I want to touch briefly, though, on what is a good prospect. That is the ideal client prospect. We refer to it as an ICP. The ideal client for your company meets two basic criteria. One, there's somebody you want to do business with. But secondly, and probably more importantly, they would in fact choose your company. You got to make sure that you're not chasing something too small which be a burden to your company or may not be able to afford the rates because they don't necessarily need the quality and the depth of your offering. Secondarily, you can't chase customers that are too large who may not make a decision to choose your company based on your size or years of experience. So the ideal client for you is one, again, starting with that you would like to do business with, but be honest with yourself and make sure that they would, in fact, choose your company. When you do this, you won't waste a lot of time chasing the wrong people and potentially missing the opportunity to talk to the right people. And from that, we build a database of marketing qualified contacts. And so let's begin. So what are the components of a revenue roadmap? And I'm going to go into greater detail on each of these. But at the end of the day, this is a high level. It's about dials, voicemails, campaign emails, LinkedIn, personalized emails, drop-bys, and a good old-fashioned snail mail. And the point that I want to make on this is not only am I going to tell you the best practices for each of these steps, but what's most important to remember, if you take anything away from this, you need to be doing some persistent and consistent degree of all of these things, some more than others. And if you're smart enough to track it, by the way, you'll start to realize what's best for your company and your marketing. Where does your success lie? Is it in dials? Is it in snail mail? But let's start with dials. The national average of number of times you actually have to dial a phone number before you reach the person you're talking to is 25 times. So start punching away. Okay. That's 25 times before you'll reach the person. Candidly, I think based on the type of people that you want to talk to, particularly the owners of a small local business, have a tendency to answer their phone and have fewer gatekeepers, as it's important for them to be communicative. However, assuming it'll be 25 times, make sure you're punching those numbers in. The problem with that is sometimes you're just not ready when somebody actually says hello, or doesn't push you to a voicemail. So make sure you're ready. Here it's my SDRs, my sales development reps who do hundreds of calls for us daily on behalf of MSPs. We consider a good call anyone who doesn't hang up. That's a good call. A great call is anyone you can hang back. You can call back. And so that is your bar for dialing. All right. Don't get your expectations too high. But however, it is the beginning and part of the revenue roadmap, the many things you must do. What's also important is to make sure that you have a good script or know the content that you want to speak to. My team role plays every day, Monday through Thursday. We get together as a team and we role play anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before we hit the phones that day. We even role play voicemails we're going to leave behind. And if you're not doing that, your team or your individual is not going to get excited about what they have to talk about, and they're not going to be prepared for on that rare occasion when somebody does, in fact, pick up the phone. Role play and scripting is very, very important. In some cases, we get cell phone numbers. We text only with permission. Good example would be, hey, Jim, do you mind? This is Vernon from CRO Leader. Is it okay if I text you? ? If I don't hear back from him, I do not persist. I might want to try it again at a later date. But what I want to do is make sure Jim does not block my phone number. So text only with permission. And a common courtesy I like to include in any conversation had while dialing for dollars is always thank the person for their time and recognize how busy they are. Okay. Now, after you've made first communication, I always start my next conversations with, Jim, I was thinking about you, and I thinking that, we need to do more to get you more meetings. And so starting that with, I was thinking about you is very disarming and can really help nurture a relationship within that client base that you're calling. With that, I'll pause. Joe, any questions on dials?
I do not see any questions yet.
All right. So what comes from dials? Yeah, a lot of voicemail. A lot of times you get pushed to voicemail. So I want to set your expectations. At the end of the day, and I know the chances of someone returning your voicemail are pretty slim. And I hopefully am going to improve your statistics on that. I think it's safe to assume that they listen for about 3 seconds before they hit delete or they move on. However, we do still need to, in fact, leave an occasional voicemail. I do not leave a voicemail every time I call, and I do not recommend that you do. What I do suggest too is that you do not give your phone number or your email address. I know that sounds a little radical or counterproductive, but instead be polite, be clear, don't apologize. Don't do the old, hey, sorry to bother you. I'm not sorry to bother you. I need your attention. I need 15 minutes of your time. That's not the voicemail I would leave. But let me give you a good example of what I believe is a good prospecting voicemail. Hi, Vernon Harrison here from CRO Leader. I've sent you a couple of emails, and I'm not even sure if this is my first voicemail, but I would really like to know what it takes to get 15 minutes of discovery time on your calendar. I'm going to send you an email with my phone number and email address. Will be right there too. So you could hit reply or give me a call, and let's make that happen. Thanks. Goodbye. That's what I do. And then I'm also letting the person know that I obviously have their phone number because I called them and leaving a voicemail, but I have their email address. And candidly, if they are interested, they'll really appreciate that they can go right into their inbox, take a look at your number, and either reply back and say, Vernon, that sounds great. How about Tuesday at 3? Or call me right back or say, hey, will you leave me alone? Of course, the answer to that is no. I've not exhausted my revenue roadmap yet. There's 3 types of voicemails you leave. There is the initial. Hey, how are you? I'd like to introduce myself. Vernon, CRO leader, best MSP on the planet, but that's not important. What's important is how are things going with your MSP? How are you being treated? That's a good introductory one. By the way, going to follow up this voicemail with an email, which will have my phone number and my contact information in there. Please feel free to use it liberally. Now, later on, once I've left that initial voicemail, I use what I refer to as a more relating type, something I saw on their website, on their LinkedIn page, or maybe I'll speak to the geography they're from. Talked to a fellow the other day who was living in Wisconsin, so I safely assumed he was a Packers fan, and I was correct. I left him a voicemail that says, hey, Joe, Vernon here from CRO Leader. I really want to talk about CRO Leader, but I'm also interested in what you think's going on with the Packers this season. And sure enough, I actually got a call back, and he goes, I don't want to talk about CRO Leader, but I'll talk to anybody about the Packers. Actually, we did have a great conversation. So do something relating to their geography, to their business, and sell it ain't tell it. Don't tell them how great you are, although I just did that in my practice run. And in any case, like the takeaway voicemail, I refer to the takeaway voicemail, which is going to be your last one for several months, where you say, hey, Jim, I think this is Vernon again. I've sent you a few things, reached out a few times. At this point, I think I'll just assume you're okay. Send you one more email with my contact information. If you need it, please feel free to reach out when you do. A lot of times when you're being persistent and consistent, people expect to just trip over you. So occasionally you'll actually get a response to that when you've exercised many of the aspects of the revenue roadmap. So far, we've covered dials and voicemails. Now let's talk about campaign emails. Emails work. A lot of times when I'm dealing with a client, say, well, emails, they don't work. They don't work. In the words of Yogi Berra, nobody goes to that restaurant anymore because the line is too long. Okay. Let's be candid. Campaign emails are your most affordable way to reach out. And I don't do large numbers. I think you can be very successful with as many as 200 marketing qualified contacts. You start emailing to databases in the thousands or over 1,000. How are you really going to be able to monitor cause and effect and nurture that should it make any moves? Remember, I don't just email anybody. I'm emailing what I believe are ideal clients. And by the way, thank you for attending here, because you met my criteria of what I believe is an ideal client. Also, you should be aware of what your prospects' vendors are utilizing. If you know they're an HP shop and HP's got a special, or certain things from Microsoft for going out of market, end of plan and things like that, you can call when you get those emails. You can call up. Another good example. Hey, Abby, Vernon here. I see that Microsoft 365 version 6.7 is going to be not supported in the future. And I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. And what am I doing? I'm being helpful there. I'm leveraging my vendor emails. Sometimes I'll even get a call when leveraging vendor emails. They'll say, no, I didn't see that. I didn't see that great deal on HP laptops. I didn't see that 50% off on ink. Can you send me a copy of that? When you're a resource to a prospect, you're this much closer to becoming the person that they should be dealing with. Keep in mind, if you're providing that information, they have to be asking themselves, why is it my MSP? So when it comes to campaign emails, we do campaigns about every 3 weeks, not once a month. We do about every 3 weeks. The only time we do them sooner than that is if it's a holiday like St. Patty's Day or Valentine's Day or some holiday, and we want to send a fine hi, how are you? But beyond that, we send them about every 3 weeks. Every single email campaign we send is followed up with a phone call to everyone we send it to. Try that when you're sending out 1,000 or 2,000 emails. It's impossible, it's impractical, and your results will not be the same. Pardon me. So email campaigning is important. All right. So, and make sure that your dialers or the person's making the call understand the content and what it means to the vendors. All right. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is now, well, I shouldn't say now. LinkedIn is just an incredibly important part of your strategy today. Okay. Does your profile show your value or how many places you worked? Does your profile say, when you go to Vernon Harrison, are you going to see that he wants to sell you something? I don't think so. You might know he wants to sell you something, but you're not going to see that he wants to sell you something. Instead, oops, I dropped back here. Sorry. What you're going to see instead is how I hope to help you. And it's the same thing with our company page. More and more individuals, particularly when they're being prospected, okay, are using LinkedIn to check out the people that are reaching out to them, checking out the people who have emailed them. In fact, you should have your LinkedIn profile in your email signature, okay? And so that is where they're going. So your profile itself should be inviting to a prospect. Okay, if you're looking for another job, go ahead and change it back to show you got great skills and things like that. But at the end of the day, it should be inviting to the prospect. So they would consider, I think this guy would help me out. Instead of being a sales development rep for an MSP, why not be a solution? Excuse me. What's my buzzword there? Solution advisor. Wow. Mental block there. Why not be a solution advisor helping you get the right IT? If you're the owner of an MSP, why don't you put down CEO, making sure that you get the best service you deserve at the right price? That's what they're looking for. They're not looking, they want to be sold, but they're not looking to be sold. And if you're not using your banner, which is a billboard, you're really showing you're not interested in that. Okay, at a minimum, your banner should at least reflect your geography. It's a missed opportunity if it doesn't sell on your site. Anyways, LinkedIn is just a huge, huge part of everyone's strategy. Ever since Microsoft purchased it several years ago, it has moved in that direction. And so for most of our webinars, 50% of the attendees came from LinkedIn. Now, if you're attending this webinar today and you came through LinkedIn, you probably already agree with me because you used LinkedIn. You got a message, you connected with me, you responded. Okay. But so you already get it. For those of you who came in through the good old fashioned email way or through some of my SDRs calling you up and saying, hey, attend this great webinar, it's about half now. I would say 3 years ago, you'd be lucky if you could get anybody from LinkedIn to join you. So it is trending that way. If you're not there, your competition is. Now, I talked about key campaign emails. And when I say emails from you, there's two types. I'm talking about the emails that an SDR, your sales development rep, or your prospector or your sales professional would be sending, or somebody from your marketing. And there's also maybe occasionally some if you're the owner of a company, particularly if you're a smaller MSP and you're engaged in sales. And certainly as the owner and CEO of an MSP, I highly encourage you to participate in some level. At a minimum, there's nothing like moving a prospect along further for your SDR if they get an email from you calling out the activity the SDR has been doing on your behalf. I've sent emails say, hey, I noticed that this is Vernon, I'm a CEO. I noticed Abby and you have had a few exchanges of emails. I'm wondering if I can jump in here and maybe get a conversation going myself with you. It's both flattering and attentive and makes the person that you're prospecting feel like they already mean something to you. There's 3 types of emails you can send. Again, there's the initial one. Hi, I'm Vernon, interested in having a discovery conversation to see if we can help each other out. Then there's the relating, just like in the voicemails. Is it to your website? Is it to your geography? Is it something I saw in the news in your area? It's not me telling you that I have the fastest response time. It's not me telling you I have 5,000 certifications and 600 hours of technical skills. Candidly, when it comes to finding an MSP, that is the least thing they're worried about. The old Zig Ziglar says they're not buying a drill, they're buying a hole. When someone is choosing an MSP, it's because they want to stay focused on what they do. They don't care how you keep the environment up and running. When you go to a mechanic, you don't care what tool he uses. You care that he fixes the car right in a timely manner and an affordable price. And that's exactly what your clients are looking for too. So why not talk to them that way? We're here to make sure you can do what you do. We keep your business moving. We're making sure you don't overpay. We're making sure your environment is safe. We're here to protect your reputation from a cybersecurity attack. Excuse me. And of course, I always include my takeaway when I've had enough of when I've exhausted my revenue roadmap and all the activities around it. Now, another one is the good old-fashioned drop-by. This is not going door to door. However, when I do drop-bys, and I do drop-bys on occasion with my clients, I go into their area. We have a very specific list of clients that we're really interested in, who've shown some interest, but we can't seem to quite get that first meeting. We stop by their office and it goes a little something like this. Hey, is Bob in? I'm Vernon from CRO Leader. And I don't have an appointment, so I really don't want to bother him. But if he's in, could you ask him if he has a minute? Okay. Now, when Bob has a minute and comes out, I say, hey, Bob, sorry to bother you. Driving by here. Love the Starbucks across the street or the McDonald's up that way. Or I have 3 clients right in this same industrial park. And I've been trying to get on your calendar. And I was just wondering, what does it take to do that? And I resist the urge when Bob says, well, why don't you come in and sit down? And I say, well, I'm kind of a busy guy. I'd like to set something up a little more formal. Okay. So one of the mistakes of a drop-by is sometimes someone will invite you in and you don't have enough schedule time to really make your case. And your case is to ask a lot of questions, not to, again, tell them how good you are, but to find out how important IT is to them. So drop-bys are always with a purpose. If you have local SDRs or local sales professionals, I highly recommend that they hit the road a half a day a week on the prospect list when it's been nurtured enough. This will not only move the ball along, it can really help. We had a great story of a particular client that I was going out to see. When we walked in and they had a candy dish up on the front counter, and I asked the person if the candy was for free, and the lady's like, of course it is. That's why it's there. So I had a piece of candy. We introduced who we were, looking for Bob, don't have an appointment. Bob's not in. And she said, well, we thank him. We dropped by. And then we went on our merry way. Now, we didn't hear from Bob. A month later, I was out with that same sales professional doing drop-bys. And I said, hey, let's go back. Aren't we near that place? I said, but before we go, let's go to the supermarket. And I bought a bag of the Hershey's miniatures. I went into the store. I opened, I went and I said to the lady, I said, do you remember me? And she looked at me and she go, I knew I looked slightly from, I said, I was the guy that asked if the candy was for free. She goes, oh yeah. And so I opened my bag of candy and I filled it back in. And I said, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of me. And I left her the rest of the bag and I took a piece of candy and I left. And I didn't say anything else. Before we got back to the office, the owner of that company had responded to our email and accepted our LinkedIn connection. And basically his email response is, what do you guys want? I can't think of a better question than that. In any case, I don't know how that's going right now, but the drop by is the kind of thing that moves you ahead of the line. Remember, these people are getting calls all the time. In fact, if you own a small MSP, you're probably getting calls from the likes of CRO Leaders and Robin Robbins and HP and Ingram Micro and, and Tech Data trying to get more of your time. And we're all trying to bring value to you. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes you got things to do. So how do you differentiate? when your Ingram Micro guy drops by, he's ahead of the line. So anyways, always make it look spontaneous. You don't want to look too desperate, but the drop bys are key. One other thing I'd like to add, this is good old fashioned snail mail. And I'm not talking about doing a giant mailer. Okay. And Robin Robbins, she got some clever things with envelopes and aspirins. Love it, love it, love it. It works because it does differentiate and get attention. What I'm talking about snail mail is, again, when you're exercising a marketing sequence and you're not really getting anywhere, or you don't feel like it's moving further when it should be, why not just drop a handwritten note or a note that's hand signed? If you ever saw my handwriting, I'm not so good with handwritten notes. It takes me too long to write neatly. But I'll just write a note, drop it in an envelope, handwritten on the outside, a little sticker with my company name on the left. And it says the same thing I basically say in every other aspect of my marketing and revenue roadmap sequence. Hey, just look in for 15 minutes on your calendar to do some discovery. See if we can't help each other out. I assure you, and I guarantee you, not even assure you, I guarantee you, if you do with persistency and consistency, a combination of these things and follow these suggestions at each level, that you will move your prospects closer to becoming a client of yours. Now, we all know when MSPs are choosing, or when somebody is choosing a new MSP that's typically around a contract is expiring, or they're unfortunately incredibly unsatisfied with the one they have. But MSP sales has never been more sophisticated. People are going after your clients. Okay, they're coming after your clients. And so therefore, you need to do the same thing and recognize that you need to be sophisticated like this. As simple as this is, tracking it, paying attention to it, and making sure you're doing all of these things by prospect, I guarantee you will get you to what we refer to the Holy Grail as the first meeting ever, an FME, the first meeting ever with a prospect that may or may not choose to do business with you. Joe, I see a question to go in the chat there.
No, that was me. So,
Joe was testing to see if he had any questions, and evidently he does not. You want to throw a question at me to test me in front of everybody?
yes. How do you handle the objection? I'm good right now.
So, yeah, I'm good right now. I'm busy. So am I. Plenty of things to do. When's a good time to reach back to you? Listen, I've met with clients at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I do mean that because I have. You mean something to me. I'm only looking for 15 minutes to see if we can't help each other out.
Beautiful.
It's a discovery meeting. If it's somebody setting up, really what I'm looking for is I'd like you to talk to one of our solution advisors. His name is Scott, happens to be the owner of CMIT Boston too. And I would like you to spend 15 minutes with him, see if you are in fact getting the best managed services you should be in your area, because there's plenty of them at the right price. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm hoping you are getting the best you deserve. And if it's not, I am hoping you will choose me. That is the basic pretext, a little wordy there, but of all of my objections. Now, before I bring up Jim, get ready. I'm about to turn you on. I want you to know that the marketing sequence does take consistency and persistency. And if you do not have the time to do it, we have a thing here we refer to as the MQC SDR Bundle. Yes, this is me selling it. So what do you get for that? We help you put together a small but not insignificant list of marketing qualified contacts that meet your ideal client profile. We sell blocks of hours, not 2 hours a day, or we sell blocks of hours for us to dial against those marketing qualified contacts as part of a marketing sequence. We're not going to bother them every day. We're going to follow up from every activity. The goal of the MQC SDR bundle is to get you that first meeting ever, that elusive first meeting with somebody who's not doing business with you today, which can grow into a potential monthly reoccurring revenue account. These programs, we believe, are for 6 months. They typically take about 6 months. Our basic plan normally costs $6,000 for those of you who are on the call today. We're discounting that. We're increasing the number of marketing qualified contacts by 50%, adding another 20 hours. And we've also, as you can see, we've given you some budgetary pricing plans. If you don't think that's enough, take a look at our bonus basic plus plan, which would give you 200 MQCs, marketing qualified contacts, 160 hours of dialing into that database with highly trained SDRs who, again, role play and script daily and follow the email. And we send out the emails on your behalf, and we'll allow anybody on your staff to attend any of those coaching sessions with them. Something to think about. In any case, now I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Now, one of the reasons we invited Jim to be our guest speaker here is our goal at CRO Leader is to help you become the best MSP. If you read the MSP owner's manual, you'll see in the back of the book towards the end, somebody says, Vernon, help me sound different than anybody else or all my competition. And I always tell everyone, don't be different, just be the best. Just be the best. Okay, because only so many can be the best. There's a lot of room at the top, and there's maybe more one who's doing a great job. And the tools that Jim has to offer are part of helping you be the best. And so with that, Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Vernon. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. I'll try to be as quick and impactful as possible, given our time. So I just want to tell you a little about Fluency. Fluency Security has been in business for about 9 years. We are a SIEM tool, a security incident. We help monitor and maintain the networks and alert things that happen on the network at real time. So if you don't mind, we'll just jump to the next slide. So the thing about Fluency, it's a little bit different than the rest, is that we're a big data analytics company that focuses on MSPs and enterprises. And what I've seen over the years is what makes MSPs different than their competition, right? What makes you different out there when you're talking to your customers? And one of the things I always noticed was the quicker you talk to your customer about an alert on your network, the better off you are. So quick and accurate communication is extremely important when you're talking to your end user. And a SIEM tool like Fluency Security provides that. See, Fluency is unique in its cybersecurity stack because it helps you prioritize your communication when you're talking to the end user, right? And it's important to have that accurate data. So there's a difference that Fluency offers over our competition. And if you just jump to the next slide, I'll be happy to explain what that is. So the difference between Fluency and our competitors is that most of our competitors put everything into a data lake where we put everything into a data stream. So what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to make a difference when you're talking to your customer? See, a data stream, a data lake is a place where it's obvious. Probably everyone on this call knows what a data lake is. But a data lake is basically an area where you place your data and you do a repository and you pull that data out. A data stream is where you're pulling the data out in real time. So to give you an example, we had a customer that used our product on a POC and used another customer's product, right? Another of our competitors. That they sent the 2 alerts out on the behaviors, and our competition reported something strange on their network or alerted them in 5 minutes. We alerted them in less than 10 seconds, almost real time. It was super fast because the way we're doing it is pulling all that information out of a data stream. So what does that mean? We believe at Fluency that when you provide that type of data and that accurate information, that you're providing value to your customers. You're communicating accurate data to your customers. You're communicating not a graph, but factual. And we believe one of the things with MSPs, the trick is opening and closing tickets. So in order for you to open ticket and close a ticket is an incredible thing when you're talking to your end user, because eventually you become that people that just fix their network. So I think it's really important that when you look at a company like Fluency Security is how we extract that data out of that data stream on real time. So that in turn gives your client and your SOC team the ability to communicate to the customer. So there we go. You can go to the next slide. So there's a couple things that I think our tool helps. And Vernon, I'm going to just jump into this if that's okay with you. So what I really think a tool like Fluency SIEM Tool helps companies prevent churn or attrition. So when you're talking to your end user, your customer, how does a SIEM tool help you prevent attrition? Well, again, providing accurate, quick information, proper reports, constant communication. You're always in their face, always giving them accurate data. So you're loud and you become that people that fix their network. So I really think a good cybersecurity tool like a SIEM tool is great to fight against churn or attrition on your customer base. So, you can get on defensive attrition or you can get on the offensive attrition. You can have your SDRs go out there and say, hey, we have a new product and we like to show you. So it shows you're proactive.
Jim, it's hard. It's hard enough. My job is to help people bring in new clients, and you're right. It's this is one of the reasons I invited Jim. It's so hard to bring in new clients, so it really hurts when you lose them, right? It doesn't. I think all of us know that pain. Now, there's a couple of clients we don't mind; they're moving on. We'll help them back. But so please continue, Jim.
Yeah, but back to that point of churn, those other larger companies out there, like in the slide previous, that are our competitors, like you saw the names I put up there, that are actually calling on your customers, saying that they don't need an MSP, right? So, having this type of tool in your stack is important. It just helps tremendously. Now,
well, this is my favorite subject,
Yeah.
monthly reoccurring revenue. That's the targets that we like to target for MSPs. So I think that if you don't mind, Jim, I'll talk to this slide because one of the reasons we like with Fluency is their immediate ability to respond has helped many of my MSPs. When we look at the technical stack, which we're not talking about today, the ability to respond in real time versus proactive or reactive reports and reading has really helped them bring in new clients. And new clients, I'm talking about new MSP clients, the MRR kind, not a project, not a product sale, but bringing in new clients, because let's not kid ourselves, the monthly reoccurring revenues or annual reoccurring revenues are the reason we're all on this call. It's the reason for living. You want to add anything to that, Jim?
No, I think it's pretty spot on. A monthly recurring revenue is the lifeblood. It's the heartbeat of the business, and providing the right information to your customer is just going to ensure that, right? It's just going to keep bringing it in.
Absolutely.
So there's one other item that I'm talking about that helps companies when they use a tool like ours, and it's something called net recurring revenue. Now, this is net recurring revenue is when you're growing your company. It's kind of mirrors like MRR, but net recurring revenue when companies are looking to see the health of their company on their subscription model, this is about how long you're keeping the customer. So the more value you're bringing to your customer, the higher your net recurring revenue becomes. So if you're for some reason looking for an investor, they kind of look at that number. What's your NR? How long have they been with you? And how long have they been paying on time, right? Because you provide value. So just with NRR, just as a story, everyone remembers the company Groupon, right? Their MMR was great, a lot of monthly recurring revenue, but their net recurring revenue wasn't there. So you'll see that Groupon is not what it once used to be. So just to wrap it up, with Fluency, you can provide, valuable services to your clients by providing quick, accurate reports, not graphs, because just graphs are useless without proper reports and everything behind them that you're showing value. So one thing that Vernon says, are you a resource to your prospect? So providing tools like this becomes a resource. It's makes you different. I'd love to learn about you guys. Happy to have a further conversation, like technical maybe a POC. But Jim Ulrich, find me on LinkedIn and let's connect. Thanks,
All right,
Vernon.
we'll promise reach back. Before I move off of this too, Jim, I want to talk about, a lot of clients, when consulting with, they want to make an investment in sales. They want to hire a sales professional. They want to leverage some outside resources like ours or other great resources that are out there. And I like all of them. I think the problem sometimes with doing that is they estimate the return on investment or maybe the time to return on investment. So looking at your net recurring revenue is a great way to determine how much you should invest in sales. And candidly, the most affordable thing that you can do is email campaigns and maybe some outsourced or part-time SDR, going out and hiring a sales professional or even bringing in a sales professional and you're a great owner of an MSP and you don't have the leadership that sales professional needs, okay, is something that you should only do when you have a very good net recurring revenue number. That determines how much you can invest. Everything you invest in your company is about an ROI. But what sometimes I think, unfortunately, many owners do is they forget or they don't take into consideration how long the investment takes to deliver back. And so knowing your net recurring revenue, to Jim's point about how long your clients are around, is the kind of thing that could also help you decide what you should spend, not what you want to spend, not spending on what you hope you'll get back from it. I did also want to tell you that the MSP Owner's Manual, Complete Guide to Growing Your Business, is available on Amazon. It's 50 chapters. It's meant to be an owner's manual. It's broken down into 50 chapters so you can take into consideration each subject until you have the ability to manage it, and so I highly recommend that. Although before you go out and buy one, it is a free copy for every single one of our clients who choose any of our services. So with that, I'll open the floor for any follow-up questions. I know we had the chat open. Does anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand and Joe will, or Abby will let you in here. Oh,
Here's a question.
Rosh, yes.
Does an MSP need to be an MSSP to use Fluency? Do they need a SOC? And does Fluency have a per MSP user pricing?
Did you catch all that, Jim?
Yes. So yes, you should be an MSSP, or we can bring you an MSSP to you. And we do have pricing for MSPs that typically we find MSPs moving into the MSSP space because that's what the clients are looking for. If not, we have resources that can provide that for you. I hope that answers your question.
And I would also like to say that I think that every MSP is got some responsibility around security. And it's a gray and fungible areas. What's the difference between MSP and an MSSP? But at the end of the day, when something goes wrong, they're coming after you. I know that you guys have different levels of offering, and sometimes that includes or doesn't include security. So you should make sure those lines are clear with your existing clients. Again, going back to attrition and not wanting to lose clients, you certainly should consider having features like Fluency to avoid someone having to switch from you to get the level of service they need. I also see Daniel has a question here. Do you attend trade shows like Cubicon, Spice World, and DevOps days? I don't know if you're asking that about us, about Fluency, or CRO Leader. We do attend trade shows. In fact, I'm down here in Orlando today, and after this call, I'm heading over to Enterprise Connect, shake some hands, kiss some babies, make some new friends. As far as you attending events to promote your company, I highly recommend stuff more local, supporting your local chamber of commerce, or even including some of your local favorite charities, okay, where small businesses may gather. We have another question here. Where can Fluency help with my MSP cyber insurance, or my client's insurance? does that have a cause and effect, or does that help them meet compliancy, Jim?
It does. A lot of cyber insurance is requiring SIMs. So one of the things that helps you fight against your churn or whatever else is that end user, your customer, is not going on the web looking for a different SIM if you're offering it. So to answer your question, yes, I've run into that quite a bit, where cyber insurance companies are requiring their customers, checkbox, do you have a SIM? So if you have one on site, or you have one, that's your differentiator. I hope that helps.
I hope we both help today. I don't know if we have any more questions, but I would like to say that I know we both went kind of fast. We're anxious to have further conversations. I know that members of my team will reach out for anybody who attended. You're going to get a copy of this recording, copy of the deck, and I'm rooting for every MSP, and we have some vendors out there too. I'm rooting for your group of MSPs, and if you think we can bring any value to those environments, please don't hesitate to call. All right. And did we? Someone was late to the call and wants to know what the relationship between CRO and Fluency. Non-fiduciary. As a matter of fact, we kept tripping over each other in various accounts. CRO Leader is a company that lives to support and help MSPs, MSSPs, and SaaS companies grow. And we've done a little bit of work together, Jim and I invited him to be a guest speaker on our bi-monthly webinars on ways to help you grow. I also like to throw in a product or an influencer. Last month or 2 months ago, we had Steve Kazan from the Inner Onion. Fantastic contribution. And so the relationship is our desire to help bring value to you, whether it be from the sales side or the technology side. Okay, there's about 50,000 MSPs in the United States today. I'm hoping the ones that know CRO Leader and the ones that know Fluency are the ones that know Inner Onion and my other friends in the industry, Ingram Micro. I hope those are the ones that are succeeding the most, but I wish everyone the best. Unless there's any more questions, I think, we got another question there. Thoughts about cold calling and direct mail? Completely necessary, but again, part of a sequence. Part of a sequence, Ross. Ross Damon asking the question, when you talk about cold calling and direct mailing, again, mix it in there with email campaigns, snail mail campaigns, your LinkedIn strategy, LinkedIn messaging, LinkedIn invites, an occasional drop by to somebody who's paying you attention but doesn't seem to want to step over the top. Okay. Some of the calls we make, by the way, some of the cold calling, we keep it real simple. Have you thought about an independent cybersecurity assessment? Are you happy with your MSP? Do you know the 4 things you should be looking for in choosing the right MSP for your company? In none of those calls that we're making are we mentioning or bragging about our abilities. We're just there to offer all of those things. We're asking you on a cold call, are you happy with your MSP? Because if you're not, we'd like an opportunity to make you happy with an MSP. Yes, it's us. Have you thought about an independent cybersecurity assessment? Your MSP may be doing a great job with your security. Maybe you don't have a separate MSSP, but it doesn't matter which one in place. Why don't you let us come in and do a cybersecurity assessment audit and tell you to help hold them accountable? Get a third opinion that's unbiased and unaccountable to the existing environment. These are the kind of cold questions that really spurn interest on the calls themselves. And what was the third one example I gave, Joe? A mental blocking on my own thing. But yes, cold calling, direct mailing, very important. And letting people know what the 4 things they should look for in an MSP. I can't tell you how many people we've shared that with who have had MSPs for years and never really thought about it, never really understood their judgment and success criteria for their MSP. So cold calling, direct mailing, yes, to ideal clients, Ross. Don't send them to everybody. You're wasting money and time, and you can't see the forest through the trees. All right. So any more questions? Listen, I do appreciate the level of participation. Jim, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Great job, Jim.
Great job, Jim. Golf clap for Jim. And I hope that the things that we're offering you today are helpful to you. And if you don't have the time, it is a service We got a couple more questions. What are MSPs and MSPs doing well today and doing poorly? Great question. And I'll try to be brief here as we come to the top of the hour. Most MSPs and MSPs are very good at offering the services that they offer. They truly are. Most do a great job. Everybody has their day. Everybody has those incidents where things don't go through. And so I think what they do poorly is you guys are highly technically skilled. And with the industry changing and sales getting more sophisticated, what you need to do better, I don't want to say you're doing poorly, but what you do need to do better is the ability to bring in new clients and hold on to the ones you have. This is the era and the phase that we're going in. If you're doing poorly at that, you might be out of business soon, but everybody needs to do better at that. And co-managed services, there's a great book by Bob Coppedge called Co-Managed IT. It's a great book. Fun read. I enjoyed it. It's kind of a competitor, I think, for me, but I may have sold more books for him than of my own. But co-managed IT is very, very necessary. Even when people have their own IT, and by the way, when calling into those guys, the first thing my team says, or my skilled practice team says, when they say we have an IT guy, we say, what do you do when he wants to take time off? What do you do when he quits? What do you do when whatever his issue is beyond his skill set? Because we'll help you with just those things. Boom. I now just stepped in line in front of you. So I believe co-managed IT, I used to have sales reps say, oh, I called them up. They got their own IT guy. They say, and you hung up, you went away. I run at those. That guy is probably overworked, overstressed, doesn't know, can't even go. Probably his wife makes him go on vacation where there's no cell coverage. Okay. Because so run it, co-managed IT. Don't run from it. I would say the same thing about your competition. As much as I love every MSP in the United States, my goal is to help those who are good at what they do to quite candidly run those out of business who can't sell. It's called capitalism, And so, and that's the era we're visiting, and I hope that's you. And I hope that I can be part of that. And I think that with that, great questions today, by the way. And I love talking about you. Anytime you want to get on the phone with me, I'm so available. Joe is too. We'd love to talk about your own company, and I will answer any questions specific to your environment at no charge to you. It is because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help you get to where you need to be. And by the way, you can keep it on the corner of your desk too. Another shameless plug for my book. But in any case, I'd like to thank all of you for attending, Jim for being our guest speaker today. And I hope to see you guys in about 6 weeks for our next webinar, which the subject is to be announced. Thank you all.